Good evening and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro, High Energy Food for Working Dogs, for their ongoing support with Dog Talk.
Tonight we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Chris Coman from the Queensland Yard and Utility Trial Association, their current president. Chris, thank you very much for having a yarn to us tonight.
G'day, folks. How are you? My absolute privilege to be speaking to you folks. I'd love to say I concentrated at work today, but I didn't. I'm excited about this interview. And I even sort of looked through the archives and to see the calibre of people that you've had on here, it's my privilege to be here and on that list. So, no, very excited.
Mate, to be honest, I'm still not convinced that we're talking to you. Is this your twin brother or... Mate, I've never seen you without the beard.
Yeah, that's because you only see me down in your terrible weathered country down south. No, I always grow a beard during winter. So I'm a PE teacher, so I spend a lot of time out in the sun, coach a lot of athletics during winter. You throw horses and dogs in there, and just have the extra winter coat on, keeps things a heck of a lot warm. And my horses lied to me. It'd be about 8 days ago, but when I got home from Bandy, saw my stallion started losing his winter coats. I thought, you ripper, winter's done. Here we go, it's shaving. Yesterday morning, we had a -2.5, snapped a few hoses, and my face was frozen. Yeah, true regrets.
So, mate, where is home?
Home's in Dalby, which is on the Darling Downs in southeast Queensland, a couple of hours up from the border, up from Gundy. I suppose in weather-wise, it's very similar to Nyngan. She's a big flat floodplain, nothing to break the cold wind. But unlike your terrible weather down there, come 10 o'clock, we've got our jumpers off, the sun's shining, and it's beautiful days. So, yeah, you can handle a cold night and frost in the morning if you know you're going to get a sunny day.
And how long have you been there for?
I've always grown up on the Darling Downs. I've been a teacher in Dalby for the last 25 years, nearly 25 years. Just absolutely love the place. It's a rural enough setting without being stuck in the middle of nowhere. We're only 2.5 hours away from the Golden Sunshine Coast. Brisbane's a comfortable 2-hour drive, and Toowoomba, if you really want bad weather, it's only an hour up the road.
And you mentioned PE teacher?
Yes, mate.
Yeah. So you have to have those conversations with the 7-year-olds when they're getting all the laughter and the giggles up?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And those conversations are getting harder and harder because it's the birds and the bees that want to be the birds, and the list goes on.
And when do you get along with Daniel so well?
Yeah.
Well, I was actually
looking 7-year-old.
I was looking before, like actually when we logged on, it's got like our names like Dan, Laura, Chris, Mister. Under it. I was just like, I didn't realize you could do that anymore on this.
Yeah, well, it asked for a title, and I suppose I couldn't put the title my wife would usually use.
So did you always want to be a teacher, mate, or was it something that you just called to you as you got through school?
Yeah, well, I always loved sport and sort of grew up competing in a number of sports, and I was lucky enough to get around the country a little bit playing sport as a teenager. But there's not that much money in it. And I always knew I wanted to have a job where it was active enough, but I didn't want to be, the 50-year-old builder with buggered knees. But I didn't want to be the person sitting down shuffling paper. And PE and ag, which I teach, are a good blend of that. You've got to get a little bit serious and do some paperwork, but then there's also that get outside and do things, which is brilliant.
That's awesome. And when did dogs come into your picture? Did you have dogs growing up, or was it something?
Yeah, we always had house dogs, and I never walked anywhere without, the family blue cattle following close behind as a kid. When you've got horses, your day is very routinely based. So you get up, you feed up before you eat breakfast, and then before you eat dinner, you've got to repeat and feed up again. And always had a dog or two following. They were obedient dogs. They've always, been loving, loyal companions to me. And you could go and fake a mustard job, but they didn't really know what they were doing, and nor did I. And the worse the muster was, the more I got to use my horse. So I was kind of happy anyway. So my, trial dog history is very short. I accidentally bought a dog over COVID, like most people did. And I have to say this pretty quiet. I had border collies up until COVID. And
That's
You
all
don't have
right.
to say that quietly around me.
yeah, no.
Laura's got a swag of them now.
You and I would
Yeah,
swap, Chris. We've
yeah.
swapped.
But no, the old border collie was like 13 and more useless than he was for the rest of his life. And I said to my wife, I want to try a Kelpie. And she goes, no dog. I said, oh, well, okay. And, we were watching the French Open. And my wife absolutely loves Rafael Nadal. And I just kept pestering her. And she said, right, you can get a Kelpie pup as long as you call it Rafa. And the next thing I'm on the phone. She goes, who are you talking to? I said, I found a fella that's got 3 litters of pups for sale. He's got a really nice garden, so he must really like his dogs if he's got a pretty garden. And then, and that's how I met Kevin Howe. I had no idea who this Kevin Howe was, never heard of a utility trial, never heard of a yard trial, just found him on Facebook and went, and that was the thought process. He's got a beautiful garden. He must take pride in what he does. And I thought an old fella has got to spend a lot of time with their dog, and I just wanted a mate. So, that was my dog, Corona Raphael. Had to call him Raph after wifey's complaints, which is fine. But when we got Raph off the transporter, he was 10 weeks old, I suppose, when we got him up here. By the time he was 13 weeks old, he knew everything I'd ever taught a dog. And I'm not a teacher just for the holidays, although they are brilliant. I really enjoy learning, be it in those moments where everything's messy. I don't understand, the kids don't understand, but then when they get that aha moment. So to me, when the dog had already learned everything I knew, I didn't go, oh, well, that's as good as it gets. I saw it as a challenge that I had to learn. So then I'd start ringing a few mates that had handy dogs. And then it was, right, try this. You do that. The dog would get better. So then it was a game for probably 6 months. The dog would do something, I'd do something. And it was just this continual catch-up of learning. And it wasn't until about 6 months I'd tapped out of all of the local fellas around here. They go, well, we don't know what to do. We've never had a dog like that. So they said, bring the breeder. I said, I can't do that, because by this stage I'd sort of done a little bit of Googling of Kevin Howe and what he'd actually done. And I thought, there's no way I can talk to a champion like this. So I delayed bringing him for a couple of months. But then, I got bored with the dog because I didn't know where else to go. And then, sent him a message and said, I bought this pup. Yes, I know who you are. You rang and thanked us when you took delivery of the pup. And he said, well, send down some videos of what you're doing. So I sent down some videos, and Kevin's reply, it just blew me away. And I still use it to this day in the classroom. It was, thank you for the videos, Chris. You are making many gross errors. If you're willing to change, call me on Tuesday night. And I use that with kids all the time. You're doing things wrong. If you're willing to change, come and see me and we'll help. Otherwise, don't waste my time. But we all know what Kevin's done for the sport and for the breed of Kelpies. But for him to take a complete novice like myself under the wing, it was just brilliant. And then, the learning just went from there. When was the National Kelpie Field Trial in Elora in Queensland? Was that 2022 or 3?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So anyway, Kevin said, here, we're going to be up the road from you coming over. So I went and met him and Kay. And I learned just as much from Kay, if not more. Sorry, Kevin. I think Kevin competed with 5 or 6 dogs that day I went over. So I sat with Kay. And the knowledge she's got of the sport, the people, the scoring is second to none. Just beautiful people, helped me out tremendously. And at that National Kelpie, I think Kevin came second with his old dog, was it Tig? I'm pretty sure it was. And the other handler that really stood out, it was just leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else, was Gary White. So I started asking, who's this fellow? And yeah, just his style of dog, it looked different to everything else. So my second pup was a little white bitch, Beth, who's now represented Queensland a couple of times, and just having a ball with them. Then yeah, went to a Gary White school, which was fantastic. Went to a second one and learned even more. So yeah, and off the back of the performance down in Lincoln a couple of weeks ago, to get a 5th and a 7th with that White's Bethany, that was pretty darn cool. So no, all of that sort of happened in about the last 3 or 4 years. And you can't just stay at home and learn. So I was keen to then try stuff, and I was actually going to go 3 sheeping. I tried a cattle yard trial and didn't like it. Whenever I work my cattle, I'm always on a horse. Whenever I muster, it's on a horse. So to stand in an arena on my 2 feet, it just felt stupid.
It does.
I was like, what am I doing? So yeah, I was going to go 3 sheeping, and then on Facebook, this cuter Queensland Yard and Utility trial Coman try day popped up, and it was only an hour and a half away from where I live. Again, I had no idea what a yard or utility was, but I went along to that. Met Big Callum Story. He talked just a little bit. 3 hours later, you laugh because you know it's true.
We have some pretty lengthy conversations.
Oh yeah, no, it was a cracker, and just how welcoming, that whole group was. People were genuinely interested in what you can do with your dogs. Coming from the horse world, where I've competed a lot, there's none of that. There's a lot of criticising of each other. So no, I was pretty hooked from the start. I think I stayed in the encouraged class for 2 trials and was booted out of that. Would have loved to have stayed there a bit longer and learnt more, but anyway. So no, it's really just snowballed in the last few years. Probably the last 30 years, I've spent a fair bit of time on different committees for different sports, be it camp draft, my son's football club, etc., or pony clubs. So yeah, it was no dramas when they were short of people to step up onto the CUTA committee. And what a privilege it's been to be part of CUTA this year. The Australian Yards that our club just hosted out at Deer and Bandy, that was something special. Our club's only 3-4 years old. We've got 57 members, and we put on a national event, which I think went down pretty well. Like all.
Who was the main sponsor for that event again? There you go.
There you go, mate. Enduro they are amazing. Their sponsorship and support for CUTA. As a new club, no business needs to throw their name to it or give their hard-earned money or product away. But yet Paul was very quick to come on board with Enduro. I think we're up to almost $50,000 in the 3.5 years that Enduro has helped our club with. I'm always given rubbish when I go down south. Wow, you have more Enduro on you than Paul. And I said, yeah, but look what he does for our club. So you've got to reward that sponsorship and show some loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as his sponsorship for the Australian Yard goes, it was second to none. Our little committee that ran the Australian Yards, they laughed at me when I first said, well, I'm going to hit Paul up for 2 pellets. And I said, hold on, that's going to be 104 bags of food. Yep. He's not going to say yes to that. Well, he did not only say yes to that, but also a heap more, and then chipped in with some prize money. It was just sensational. So yeah, the prize, the sponsorship that we had, not only from Enduro, but also our other sponsors, including you, Laura, What do we get? 5 or 6 12-month subscriptions to the magazines.
I think it was 10 between the Yard and the
10.
NKF. Yeah.
There you go. There. So no, that was much appreciated. Yeah, they went out to the winner of the novice maiden in courage, and a couple went out in raffles, and a few people donated theirs back to us because they already had subscriptions. So we'll have a chat with how best we can use that as a club. But no, thank
Anywhere,
you for your sponsorship.
Use them wherever.
Yeah, perfect.
Sorry, mate.
So
I'm still stuck at the beginning. Like for someone that's in a Queensland jersey, and you told me you have blue cattle dog. It's good to see you got a bit of taste somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, well, growing up on small hobby farms on the edge of town, you've got to have a dog that can do a little bit of a job for you, but also keep people out of your yard. So even there now, well, you met my Rottweiler down in Ningen.
Oh, I'm in love. She's beautiful.
Yeah, no, she's a proper beautiful thing. But yeah, don't try getting into the yard. So you got to have, these work dogs are brilliant, but you also got to have a big dog.
And speaking of Paul, and your Roddy, like he would have been in love playing with her because he made a guest appearance at your trial too, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Like big effort from him. He spent most of the week at Ningen with us.
Yeah. Which you also just for our listeners out there, which you also got out and actually supported that trial as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Enduro sponsored the Australian Utility Championships. So they threw away a heap of product and stuff. And then not only did he sponsor the Australian Yard Dog Championships, but also the National Kelpie Field Trial. So to sponsor those 3 big national events all within 2.5 weeks is just phenomenal. And then last weekend, I think he was back in Ningen with the Pig Hunters sponsorship. Yep. So what they're doing is brilliant. They're not just sitting back on their laurels, and they're pushing a great product. So no, good on him.
Mate, what was some like with the? I'm going to get this wrong. Cuter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But with it being like a fairly young association, mate, and hosting such a big event and prestigious event like the Australian Yard Dog and the National Kelpie Field Trial, mate, were there any takeaways that you guys took on, things that you may have even been nervous about to start, and then you've grabbed it, you've run with it, and grown from it?
Yeah, definitely. Couple of things with answering that question. First off is Cuter only ran the Australian Yard Championships. It was the Deer and Bandy Show Society, led by Ed Gray and Lauren Young, who had ran the National Kelpie Field Trial. Okay. So the 2 events were run by separate entities but coexisted. So for that to happen, there are a number of hurdles that needed to be jumped. The Working Kelpie Council like to have the 2 events separate, which makes sense. But for us, where we don't have the sheep numbers that you do down south, and to get the number of sheep that we needed for the Australian yards, it made sense that it coexisted. So Ed Gray works for Fletcher's Farming, and what they donated with sheep was brilliant. And that's a key word, donated. Yeah. We often talk about stock donors, which often are stock contractors and get some payment for it. We didn't pay a cent for those sheep. We're having to pay a little bit for cartage, which is fair enough. But yeah, to have, originally we had 4,500 head lined up. Unfortunately, it rained, so we only ended up with a bit over half of that. But can't help Mother Nature.
So can I ask an ignorant question? In Queensland with Cuter, is it common that you guys actually pay for your sheep each trial?
Pay for sheep plus pay for cartage.
Wow.
Yep. So like a higher rate?
Correct.
Yeah, well.
Per head, yep. Which I can understand. Farmers have got to spend time and effort to muster in their stock. We're playing with their livelihood. It does mean that things get a little bit dearer, which is probably why our prize money isn't as good.
yeah, it's still that's another thing that your committee has to organise and run with. It's just that's
Yeah.
I think it's great that the events are run together. I know it's like for majority of people, it's hard to get off work, let alone if you're in Victoria and you have to come to Queensland twice in that same year, 2 weeks apart, let's say. Like it's just
absolutely. I was
makes it
a
more
massive
viable
advocate
for
for that.
everyone.
Yeah.
I wish I could have got taught myself like that. Yeah, Laura, you're spot on.
Yeah, so I think the takeaway for us as a young committee in terms of sheepdog trialling was most of our members hadn't been to one where the Australian Yards was a standalone event and the National Kelpie was somewhere else. So this was our normal, what we put together. As far as it being a massive and daunting event, although as a association we're new to trialling, many of us have been involved with national events of other sports. So it wasn't that daunting for many of us. And the fact that Errol Gills was the lead of the subcommittee that put it together, Errol's been to crikey nearly every one of these Australian yards over the last 6-7 years. So he had a lot of contacts and he knew exactly what he wanted to do. And Jay Darlin did a fantastic job with making the event personal. All of us fellas on the subcommittee just wanted to make sure the yards are good, the sheep were good, judging was good. Let's go and compete. But Jay was keen on, well, we've got to have this sort of stuff so that people can go home and remember it, which I think made the event. And right down, did you guys see any of the live stream?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit.
Like, the yards look brilliant. The signage from both sponsors and then our CUTA stuff, like it looked awesome. It was really cool. So
Mate,
yep.
Sorry, just what we're talking about, the trial and the National Kelpie Field trial. I just wanted to make a special mention. Barbara Cooper is 100 years old and sat out there every day on a chair.
Insane.
And her vision isn't great, I believe. And she sat there and she watched it every day. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no,
that's crazy. What a lady. What a woman.
And didn't want the fanfare. Like, statements like that were put over the PA, but she was still this humble person, just happy to sit and watch. It was fantastic.
Talk about commitment to the industry almost. It's not the right word, but
commitment to the breed, to the cause.
No, 100%. No, and even looking at, I think we had 4 Western Australians, 3 Tasmanians, only 5 South Australians because of the drought that those poor fellas are having to endure at the moment. 25 Victorians. Yeah, we had 40 of you Mexicans come across the border, but at least there wasn't a blue wall that we saw. So to have people come from all over the country, like that was pretty humbling. And you folks would have organised a trial before, and you have, it's a fair bit of stress getting things ready because you want it to be good. And then you put it all out there. Nominations open. No one nominates. And then a couple of days in, you go, oh no, have people actually got this? So then to see these nominations start rolling in, I think we had 98 handlers in the end come. And then to see them all there, it was just brilliant.
And being a relatively new association, and once again, if I'm wrong, I apologise in advance. I'm assuming there's a lot of new members and a lot of people new to trialing, whether it be yard utility. What was the learning curve like for a lot of those people seeing some of the country's best in action?
Mate, I think we're up to about 70% of our club is encouraged maiden handlers. For most of our members to make the trip out to Dirranbandy, where it was restricted to class, where they could only get their one run in encourage and a maiden,
Wow.
but then stick around for the 4 days and work for the best in the country. Like, to me, that's the exciting part. In the backyards, we were in the backyards at 4:30 in the morning, make sure everything was sorted, ready for an early kickoff, and to have encourage handlers come and help set up everything for the best in the country, and even their partners were coming and work for 3 and 4 days. Like, that was exciting. It was just icing on the cake to see some quality handlers and their dogs. There was quite often the little bit of a jab in the ribs, and that's so-and-so. And I've seen that dog on their YouTube clip. Yeah, definitely. So, no, that was pretty cool. But then also how approachable those top people were. They'd stop and thank our members, the workers. A couple of them then went and got some selfies with some of the celebrity handlers as well. So Joe really liked that.
Like a couple of weeks now, 1 week, 2 weeks, like after nearly 2 weeks, what's the energy like? Like, are you feeling like that the club's going to get more momentum, or the association off the back of this, and grow and develop even more?
Geez, I don't think you can mention energy yet. Like, I got home on dark on the Sunday night, and went to school the next day, and a kid knocked on my office at lunchtime, and I was asleep. So, were you asleep? And I said, yeah, I was. So, finding energy after that big week was pretty tough. But you're dead set right. There's a number of our members now that have seen that standard, and they go, wow, now that's great that we beat each other on it at a weekend show, but there's a whole different level. So that's a pretty cool thing. But also then how those top people interacted with our members. Fires bring people together. So at every fire, you could see a few top people, but it was always talk about dog, and not the critical, well, you can't do this. It's, well, this is how I achieve this, and where you're at, the next step is this. So that sort of learning is just brilliant. And the vibe within the club at the moment is one of excitement. A, we did something, and B, can't wait for next year. Look at the improvement that we could possibly get.
Yeah. It's lit a lot of fires in bellies, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's really cool, mate. Might touch on some trialing a little bit later again. But mate, just coming through with your own experience, and like realistically fairly new to the dog scene yourself, mate. Was it 20, 25 years teaching?
Yes, 25.
How has that influenced your understanding of working with a dog, like dealing with a lot, especially the young teenagers?
Yeah, it's all learning. So it doesn't matter if it's a school student, one of my athletics kids, a dog, a horse. It's learning, and learning's got to be pitched for where they are now, not where you want them to be in 6 months. So if you can understand the learning process and then program steps in that learning, where whether it's a dog, horse, student, athlete, where they can see the improvement and build in that self-confidence, to me, that's what it's about. Always with an athlete, you'll have some strengths and weaknesses. We can't just celebrate the strengths, ignore weaknesses. We've got to improve those weaknesses, but that can't be the sole focus either. So I suppose it's that building of confidence. And I love nothing more than being able to shut up. In a classroom, if you've set the learning environment well and the kids understand the task well enough, they can do it. They don't need some teacher yelling and screaming or writing everything. It's the kids can do it. Same with a dog. Absolutely love it when you send the dog up a paddock to grab some stock and you just stand at the gate. It might be half a kilometre away. You can see them, like the trust is there, they're doing it. And so to me, it's the teacher's got to be out of the equation eventually. So it's that gradual release of responsibility. You know, I want the school students to do more. I want my dogs to do more than what I am. So yeah.
And obviously, and with the Catholic school as well, but any school, like you got to be careful of how much pressure you're applying to that learning phase. How have you gone like pushing that? Like a lot of people think, oh, working dogs, it's all about pressure, 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 but it's not.
Oh, well, mate, you think back to when you were a little 14-year-old boy, and I'm sure you were an angel. And if there was a teacher, particularly one that you didn't respect, put pressure on you, I'm pretty sure you would have raised a little middle finger. I've had dogs, and when dogs get the poops with you, it's not that detrimental to your health. But if you're on a young horse and it's sticking the middle finger up, you eat some dirt. If you put too much pressure on a school kid in today's environment, you end up in the boss's office or parents on the phone. So, but I was thinking of this in prep for the meeting tonight, or tonight's interview, and the whole idea with horses is pressure and release. You put pressure on and release when they do the right thing. In essence, you can kind of bully a horse. You can't bully a dog. They've got to have that. There's got to be that mutual respect. And you've heard me down in Ningen, the way that I talk to my dogs. It always gets a laugh, particularly in the yard section or the utility where people are hanging around. They go, it sounded like you were talking to them as if you're sitting down having a beer. I said, well, yeah, if they don't like me, if we don't get along, how are they going to do a job for me? That doesn't mean I've got to be their best friend and they're, oh, you're so beautiful, but there has to be that mutual respect.
That said, mate, I did have the pleasure of judging you at the Australian last year.
Yep.
Do you want to touch on how you talk to your dog?
Oh, probably not, because wifey, I think, is listening to this.
That's all right.
She might get jealous.
I think I actually mentioned to you this year.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Nah, so Beth is beautiful. She really is. So I always call her, hello, beautiful. Good girl, beautiful. Yeah. Thanks, lovely. Like, it's a little bit pathetic, but she's a softer soul, and she really tries hard for me when she knows she's doing good. So yeah, there's always that little bit of banter. But even then, same with my dog Raph. Like, he knows he's my mate. But yeah, since there's that rapport with them, when they do wrong, you can jump on them a little, and it's, oh, geez, sorry, I did let you down, Dad. So it's not all just smiles and roses. It's, it always does get a laugh.
I've been questioned a few times when I talk to my dogs out there, and I'll be like, I don't talk to them too much, but when they're doing something, I go, oh, sorry, if they've made a decision and I've overruled it and it was the right one. But I've never heard anyone go, you're so beautiful, Bethany. When you're, I love you, Bethany. And
good effort.
I love the relationship you have with your dogs, mate, and the way you get on with them. It was really cool.
Yeah. And I think where a lot of that stems from is, as a young kid playing a lot of sport, you can often get a little bit aggro, and that comes out in your voice. And riding a horse, as soon as you start talking aggro, you have a physical response from what you say. So if you're, you stinking horse, you flex, the horse then can feel it, and it just goes terrible. So I think from a young age, as soon as I started talking nice to the horse, that nice speech would then come out in the body, the horse would relax. And in almost every single dressage test that I did as a young fellow, it had on the bottom, do not talk to your horse during a test. And this one very English dressage judge called me over at the end, and she said, young man, had you have not spoken to your horse, you would have won. And 15-year-old me went, well, love, had I not spoken to my horse, how would he know he was doing well? So then I had a stand-up argument for 5 minutes with this judge. And you know how that went with my placings for the day, but I don't care. I'd talk to my horse nicely when I'm feeding it, when I'm training it. Why wouldn't I talk to it while it's doing a dressage test? So I think that's just sort of stemmed over a little bit into the dogs. And it's a little bit reassuring for them too. Like there's no point training one way and then getting out on a competition field and doing something completely different. So, the dogs are used to my voice blabbering on, so that's what they get when we trial.
Mate, having a full-time job as a teacher, which is a very, very involved job, I must say. You guys do
You're just
hours.
you're just
outside
sucking up
hours.
now, mate. Usually we get rubbish that it's not a real job. You only work 9 to 3 and you've got the best
Well,
holidays of everything.
Mate, I used to think the same until I dated a teacher once upon a time, and I was cutting up kids' artwork in my holiday, in what was her holidays and our holiday. Anyways, long story apart. Where do you actually find time to work with your dogs and educate your dogs?
Like everyone, there's 24 hours in everyone's day, and if you ask someone who's always saying they're busy, they're probably not doing too much. I've been teaching for nearly 3 decades, and I'm yet to have a lunch break. I work through my lunch breaks at my computers, purely because, as a PE teacher, you're forever doing extra coaching after school and that sort of stuff.
Pulling up the short shorts.
No, none of that. So no, it's while you're at work, you work. The beauty about teaching is that when the kids go, you can leave work a little earlier, but that doesn't mean that your work, is done.
Yeah.
So which also worked in well when I had kids. Because my kids, I'd expect, sat down and did homework after dinner. So I too would sit down and do my jobs. In reality, it's as if you're working a bit of a split shift, but it meant that I got to spend a heap of time with my kids after school, and a lot of that was spent particularly with the horses as they grew up. As far as training dogs, when I've had 4 and 5 horses in work and 3 of them are young breakers, now that's 3 hours of horse work a day easily. So to fit that in is pretty tough. I can train 6 dogs in 30 minutes. So and there's no rugging, unrugging. There's no hosing them down.
That's what I say.
Mate, and I'm that lazy that I'll even take. Neil McDonald popped in home about a month ago, and he said, "You're going to train your dogs in here with these other dogs tied up right here on the fence." Yep. How's that going to work? Silently. So they all just sit there and like, I'm that lazy now. I won't even walk around a corner to get a dog. I want them all there. Your turn. Clip up. Next one. Like obviously you can't do that all the time, and 2 and 3 minute sessions are great, but at some point you do have to step it up, particularly for a bigger comp.
Best way to learn some impulse control, mate.
Oh, 100%. For me or the dog?
Both.
Yeah, no, that's right. And if you look at, say, I've got Gary White's breed and Kevin Howe's breed. Like, how long have those fellows been breeding work dogs that know when it is to work, but also have an off switch? And that's, people ask me all the time, how are your dogs so good? And I say, I don't know, go and talk to Kevin and Gary. They'll answer that better than myself. But the only answer I've got for them is a well-bred dog not only has natural instinct, but also has the ability to switch off and chill, and then has the ability to want to work with you. Like the number of Kelpies I see up around here that, they've got a lot of drive and instinct, but they just block out a human. The human's just not in the equation at all. So to me, better bred dogs have that.
It's funny you say that. Yesterday I had a client here, we're mucking around, and we're flicking his dog around with some sheep, and young Sting, he's 2 years old, and I've just leave his kennel door open and he's asleep. And he's like, is that dog going to be ready to go? I said, mate, as soon as your dog loses those sheep, this dog will be out before I even turn around. And next minute, we've just watched his dog stop and look back, and we've had ding, and we looked around and Sting's gone. Just asleep one moment and then switched on the next. And you think they're not watching, and they've always got an eye open somewhere, right?
Mate, it's brilliant. And even when they're on the job, like if I'm walking my handful of steers home from the dam, that's a kilometre. So I don't want the dogs whipping around the tail or anything. And if the cattle are moving along nice and easy, I just want the dog to chill out and follow. So, it's not as if they've got to go and sleep in a kennel. They've got to be able to chill out on the job too.
No, absolutely. Mate, so you've mentioned Bethany. We spoke about Raph. Mate, you want to tell us about some of your young dogs coming through?
Yeah, definitely. So Raph and Beth both surprise me with what they can do, and they make me look a lot better than what I really am. And I wanted an insurance policy, so I did make the two. They're coming up 2 years old, that litter. I only wanted to keep one. My wife fell in love with another one because he was a pretty colour. And
Is
then
this
I
the
got
same
that.
wife that didn't want the dog to start with?
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that bit. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Don't try to understand women, mate. That's a mistake. And then, I ended up with one of the pups that I sold, got given back because he's terrible and hopeless. He just got sick. I got him back as a 4-month-old.
Was that young
He
George?
was off, young George. He
Yeah,
was
beautiful.
off his chops. He was insane. But for a useless give me back pup, he got 6th in the novice at the Australian Utility Champs, and 11th in the novice at National Kelpie Field Trial. So unfortunately, we got DQ'd at the put away in the Australian yard in the maiden. A sheep just jumped out of the arena. So when people came and were rightly so whinging about the height of the back fence in the maiden ring there, I was like, oi, I had a smoke and run, the put away gate open, and for whatever reason, this sheep jumped out. So I'm in your club. But there was 147 in that class in the maiden at the Australian Yard Champs. So Georgie was going smoking until that happened, and then mother red pup Louis. He had one mishap. There was one tricky part in the course which he didn't handle as a young dog, so we blew a fair few points there. But he still ended up, I think, 15th out of the field. So no, they're going really good.
Of course.
But no, they're good fun.
Just the 4 dogs?
Oh, and I kept one other little female from that litter. My daughter fell in love with this pup, and even when they were 2 weeks old, she'd go to the whelping box and there's one less pup, so she'd have it up in bed with her. And I'm like, damn. So she's a beautiful little dog and a very wide working, lovely cast, little softer. But she knows I'm not her boss. She loves my daughter, and it's like, I'll listen to you, but so she's just a come along, I reckon. But no, the 2 male pups are going really well. I had my first ever 3 sheep at the start of the year at Stanthorpe, and with my red pup made theirs is Encourage, isn't it? 3 sheep in their entry level, made the Encourage final with him. He went pretty well. Actually, in the final, we had no troubles. Got to the pen with 4.5 minutes left. Sheep entered the pen, and then 2 of them promptly jumped out the back of the pen and just ran off. He was a good 20 metres off them. There was no getting those sheep back in. So I think we blew 60 points at the pen because I was determined not just to camp there and count down the clock. Kept him working, but just so no, that red puppy's. Luckily he's still a maiden yard dog. We've placed in a number of maidens and novice yards. He won a novice utility at Easter time. Made 3 sheep final on my first ever run. So to see the next generation come through and have strengths of both, it's pretty brilliant. And leading up to Nengan, I was talking to Gary White, and he said, "How are those pups going?" And I said, "Oh, they're going okay." I said, "Well, what's okay mean?" I said, "Well, I don't know. They're my first pups. I suppose they're going all right." So he started prompting. He said, "Well, are they doing this?" I said, "Yes, they are." "Oh, well, can they do this?" "Yes, they are." "Oh, surely not." "Yeah, they are." And he goes, "I can't wait to see these go." And then, leaving Nengan this year, Gary says, "Well, I don't think I'm that keen to actually compete against those pups next year. They're not even 2 and did well." So, it's good fun.
And what about any future ambitions?
Retire. It's hard at our age and your age, folks, where we've still got to go to work, and we're trialling against people that have done the hard yards at work. They're retired. they get to rock up a day early and leave a few days later, and it's like, damn, I've got to drive home all night and then front work tomorrow morning. So yeah, no, retirement will be awesome. Lots of dog and horse play. No, I think the biggest ambition is continue learning. Like I haven't seen a plateau in what I've learnt, nor my dogs yet. So it's keep learning. And yeah, that's, I was just before Ningen, I went and had a lesson with Bailey Knight, who's great three sheeper here in Queensland, currently over in Western Australia, and I see has made the Open final, and he's vying for Australian selection. And the few things that he picked up on that I was and then wasn't doing was great. And then to see him work those international standard dogs of his, that was brilliant. So yeah, just keep learning, I think, is the key for what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That said, like you mentioned, obviously Bailey there and Kevy and Gaz, and you mentioned that I think 70% of your club will like encourage maiden handlers. How about like educating the association and the members there? Like, have you got plans on how to get some momentum there?
Yeah, definitely. So this year in particular, we wanted to have a few get-togethers which weren't trial competition based. So we more or less wanted fun days mixed with a little bit of education. So we kicked that off at the start of the year at James Lingard's place. It's not far from the sunny coast, so it was beautiful weather. We did a twilight thing. He put up a heap of floodlights on his arena. So there was a fair bit of just learning and sharing knowledge on the Saturday afternoon, and then we did a judges' school on the Sunday morning, and then, ran a few courses, and it was well received. I think we had 32 people there, which was over half of our members came, and off the back of Christmas and New Year's, so it was mid-January, people were still in a festive season, and it was just a bucket of relaxed fun. We've then done a similar day down at Errol and Jay's place at Boona, where it was just come and run your dogs. And there was that shared learning, which was brilliant. And then I've done a couple of demo training days out here at Dolby at the local produce that, as a club, we get all of our enduro product through.
Yep.
And a couple of members always come out to that and assist, but then just to have the just general public who have a working dog breed but don't know where to start, come and actually have a play on stock is pretty cool.
That said, where are the majority of your members coming from? Are they coming from off the land, or are they coming from like hobbyists that then want to evolve?
Yeah, there's a few that are off land. I'd say a quarter. Then there'd be another quarter or half that have got some sort of hobby farm. And then there's a fair few that live right on the edge of suburbies. So it's a real mix, which is wonderful. We've got some pretty experienced stockmen in the club, which love sharing their experiences and views, and then also their places. So there's a couple that live on a few 1,000-acre blocks, which are regularly, when it's quiet on our trial season, they'll have 4 and 5 members from backyard people come and do jobs with them, come and help with the branding, come and do the mustering. So that sort of real work stuff for those people is just brilliant as well.
Seems like you guys are building a real community up there, which is pretty cool to see.
Oh, man, that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And Gary Barker, who's a renowned three-sheeper here in Queensland, he's one of the judges over in Western Australia at the moment, actually, championship judges. He said our Cuter Association, he judged at our state utility champs last year. And he said our association reminds him of the three sheep through the 80s and 90s, where people didn't have flash caravans. they would all come with their ute and dog boxes and a swag, and they'd all camp in the hall at the show together. They'd have a few red lemonades and talk some rubbish around a fire of a night, share a meal, and just poke rubbish at each other. And that's pretty much what we do at most of our trials. You're all wanting to win and do well, but you're just as happy for the next person to do it, and even more happier to camp with your mates, share a meal, share a red lemonade, and just talk rubbish and not stay at home and work. Let's face it, even if you've only got a 5-acre block, that's a fair bit of work on your weekends. So to be able to go away with your dogs, with people that are similar to you, you enjoy their company, that's gold.
Right, to some people out there that may be listening within the Queensland community. And
Hi, Mum.
Not Mum. Oh, well, maybe Mum. But and
Mum's listening, mate.
And there's people out there that are listening and have a dog and a little bit unsure as to or maybe feel a bit like overwhelmed at times. Like, what advice would you give to those people to come out and get involved with you guys?
Oh, mate, working with livestock, every one of us look like idiots and fools, and we've all been beginners and done foolish things. So that's the first thing. If you're scared of looking like a fool, learning isn't going to ever eventuate. To me, failure is the first step of learning. So if you can go anywhere and fail, you're doing better than the person that stayed at home. There are that many dog trainers or enthusiasts that are willing to help and share with their knowledge. Reach out to any of them. A good place to start is always, who do you get the dog off? I'd like to think that people only breed a dog if they've got a purpose for it and a greater goal in mind. So whoever has bred that dog thought enough of its parents to think that they're worthy to reproduce. So touch base with those. Every state around the country. I just got a text from my mum. Yes, we are listening. That's gold.
Hi, Mum.
Yeah, hi, Mum. Crikey. I got no idea what I was saying now.
Something about from every state.
Oh, every state. There's always an association. And don't think that your first outing has to be a competitive one. Go and meet people. Go and talk to them. See what it's about. We've got a Butte saying in the camp draft world that if you want to be involved, you've got to go and help first. So go and pencil, go and swing a gate, work a backyard. So if you can help someone, they'll then turn around and help you.
I heard something very similar on a Clinton Anderson clip today. I listen to a lot of Clinton Anderson.
My language was a lot not as filthy.
no, that was a lot cleaner. But it's exactly with where you're going. Like, get in, get your hands dirty, deal with some shit, learn from it, and keep going. Right?
Oh yeah, and to be honest, if we're not experiencing failure, we're only doing what we already know and what's comfortable, which is great as a human to be comfortable. But if you want to get better, you've got to get a little uncomfortable.
Can't learn if you're too comfortable.
Oh, correct, yeah.
Mate, as the president of the Queensland Yard and Utility Association, is there a message you'd like to get out into the working dog community?
Look out, Queensland's getting better.
That's cool. I love it.
Oh, but it's dead set true. The northern New South Wales fellas love popping over the border and competing with us because it's closer for them. Your Peter Hogans, your Tony Overtons, your Sandy and Mandy Carlins. And when we first saw them come over the border 3 years ago, we were like, you guys are sensational. And don't get me wrong, guys, they are great. And they used to take all of our prize money. Like every cent of our money would go across the border. Whereas now there's a number of us that are pushing them out, and they might only be beating us with one dog, and we're starting to get some. So being exposed to their level of competition is fantastic. For members to then see a level again above that with the Victorians and South Australians, which are insane with what they can do with their dogs, that's only going to drive us to get better.
They all say, I grew up with the saying, you are who you hang around. And I think that is definitely true in competition as well.
Oh, 100%. But as I said earlier, this whole dog world is totally foreign to me. Growing up competing on horses, you didn't look sideways at someone's horse because, oh no, you're picking on them, or it's just terrible. And well, you only won because the judge bred your horse, or like it's a disgraceful industry. To then turn around and have the dog world so welcoming and the sharing of information, it's just mind-blowing.
It's the complete opposite, and people don't realise till they've been in it and then go from the horses to the dogs that they go, wow, imagine what, like, mind you, the horse industry, they all compete to a very high standard and all the rest, and it's a great industry to grow up in, but
Correct.
It's very different in terms of welcoming and
Yep. No.
That said, you're spot on. But when you started getting into the dog world, what was your approach to get in? Like,
mate, I just saw a cuter Facebook post and knew nothing about it, and I'm happy to be a little uncomfortable. So I went along. This is me. This is what I've hung around more cattle than sheep, but I can kind of see how sheep flow. This is me and my dog, and that's what we did. And crikey, we made some fools of ourselves and crashed a few sheep and bit a few, and holy moly.
So, sorry, you just said then you spent more time around cattle. Why didn't you go down the cattle trial route?
Because I felt naked standing on 2 feet and not on my horse around the cattle. So, my dog, Raph, was only 10 months old when a local show had a cattle trial aspect. And to be perfectly honest, the only reason why I really pushed so hard with learning of the dogs is because I've had 3 shoulder reconstructions and 2 within the last 4 years. So it's a little bit hard to show horses when you've got a wing in a sling.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, can't go training on it and showing a horse, so I might as well spend a little bit more time on this dog. A local show that I've always competed in their Stockman's Challenge and competed pretty well over the years, couldn't go in it, so I thought, well, I'll go in this cattle dog trial. And, it just felt weird. Raph was only 10 months old, and he tried his heart out, and I thought we did all right, but I had no idea on rules and ended up getting disqualified. Well, I got the dog disqualified, not him getting me DQ'd. So, yeah.
How about when you jumped in the sheep world and you realised, like you said, you had to get uncomfortable? Did you find yourself using these more than this to get it like a bit more accepted and getting in?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no. While this is open, these are closed. And that's the same whether you're a school student, a horse, or a dog. So I don't do much barking with dogs because they always close their eyes when they bark. So I figure they've closed their eyes, they've closed their ears, no barking. But yeah, you're dead set right. You can't learn while you're telling what you already know. So yeah, there's a lot of and I'm a big thinker. So it'll be watch people that operate similar to you, think about what they're doing, and then I come home and really try to map it out. What is it I can change? What is it I can modify? What is it I've got to stop doing? To me, that's brilliant. But you're dead set right. Whenever you go anywhere, you've got to come as guest. We speak a lot of at school, and you can't come as a guest if you're just shooting your mouth off.
That's spot on, mate. And you touched on something else there that I did want to touch on. Like, obviously, you've got Rafa from Kevy, utility dog. when you decided utilities where you want to go, and then Bethany come along, like, how did you go about selecting a dog for the purpose you wanted to achieve?
I just went, like I said, I went to that National Kelpie field trial at Ella and just saw these two fellas, that Kevin and Gary, like just the control they had over the dog, but also how much natural stuff the dog does. And they're both what I view as stockmen. So I thought that's what I wanted. And that was the thought process. And I think I've just, in the horse world, it can take you many years to find a breed or a line that you actually work well with, that gets along with your personality, with your environment. I think I was just pretty lucky to fall upon two lines of Kelpies that actually fit me well. And that's just pure fluke.
I beg to differ. It wasn't a pure fluke because because you could have just went to Gumtree and bought any Kelpie, but you didn't, right?
Nah, that's right.
Yeah, and now I suppose that's what I wanted to highlight there. Like you went and you were in awe of what happened, and you went and purchased a dog for that purpose from those people.
Yeah, definitely. And all I knew when I wanted to try a Kelpie pup was I was not getting something local, because a lot of the Kelpies up here, they'd blow away on a windy day. They're just sort of underfed and just run stupid. I thought, I don't want that. As someone who's got to have them locked up when I go to work for just a few hours during the day, being a school teacher, I still just didn't want a rat of a dog. So, yeah, there was a little bit of thought went into it, but I had no idea of lines. And even now when people say, how's Bethany bred? I don't know. Go and talk to Gary. Which one is she out of? I don't know. So, I'm not a good student. Ask me about quarter horse pedigrees and I'll talk for the next 2 hours, but ask me dog pedigrees and I'll just refer you to the experts.
That said, like you said, you've been doing this for a handful of years now. Is there a dog out there that you would love to own that somebody else owns?
Yes. Kevin Howell's got a little 13-month-old bitch called Nulla. She's Roy's last pup, and she was born as they crossed the Nullarbor to go to the Australian Yards last year. I don't think my wife knows how hard I actually tried to purchase her and the amount of money I offered Kevin for her, and I'm not going to say it knowing she's listening in the next breath. But no, I've seen some videos of her work, and just a very natural little girl. Has that Karana punch and bravery and size, but has also got the working at distance. I reckon that's the one. Please, Kevin, if you want to sell her, I'll take her.
Jump in line, mate. He was talking to me about it last night.
Oh, there you go. Fantastic. So he's actually talking about bringing her up. Because I think he's going to come to our state utility champs again this year in September at John Deere and Woolshed. No, he's thinking of giving her a run in the maiden ring. So it'll be good to see her.
How important is it for like your association to have people like Kev and Gary turning up to not just the national stuff, but your state stuff?
Oh, 100%. And our very first state utility championships, Gary came up the week early and ran a 3-day school. There was his 2-day normal working school, and then a 3rd day was trial getting ready. To have someone invest 3 days into us total war beginners was brilliant. And then Kevin Howe last year did a similar thing, came up and gave us a day's tuition. I think it was 2 days before our state utility champs. And again, that's unheard of. Like, what champion readily gives away all of their secrets, tries to get you as good as you can, and then I'll turn around the next day and try to beat you. and he did beat us. So he won our Queensland State Utility Champs last year by 1 point. He beat my Whites Bethany by 1 point with old Roy. So,
and retired now, Roy. So, Kev, I hope you're sitting on your lounge at home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it was a good old dog.
He was. Fortunate enough to own his litter system, mate.
There you go.
Mate, is there anyone you'd like to see us sit down and have a yarn with on Dog Talk?
Oh, crikey. Yeah, Paul from Enduro.
Actually, we actually did have a yarn to Paul a couple of years ago. Remember, someone was sick, ended up in hospital, and he jumped on. It actually was really cool to have a follow-up a couple of years down the track.
100%. Yeah, no, drop him in. He really doesn't like the limelight. We always struggle to get him in photos when he actually comes to our events. So, he came to our state yard championships at Gundawindi at Easter time, spent a couple of days there with us. Definitely goes above and beyond in what he does. And he's always good for a yarn.
You're just looking for free Rottweiler training tips, mate. He's very handy with a dog himself.
Yeah, definitely.
I've seen it firsthand, mate. He's very handy with a dog and very open-minded.
And when he first popped into my place at the start of the year, he said, Kelpie's great. He goes, that's a Rottie. I said, yeah, it is. How's she bred? I don't know. I'll go get, and Rottweiler's breeding is this thick. It's a darn booklet, and he's getting more and more excited the more he looked at it. So I just thought she was a nicely bred dog, so that's what we got.
Which is very cool.
Yeah. You'll have to ask Adam James if he likes our Rottweiler, though.
He upset her?
Oh, yeah. Don't come running at me in the dark down at Nyngan. No, she wasn't that happy with it. I think we all got a little bit scared for a moment.
Laura, do you have one of your questions lined up?
Yeah. If you were a crayon, what colour would you be and why?
Not blue. Not blue. I had to say that talking to you Mexicans. Mate, it's got to be a maroon one. We won the State of Origin this year, and I know we had a couple of bad years with it, but if we look at the last decade, we just smashed you folks. So have to be a maroon crayon.
Typical Queenslander.
If I knew you were going to wear that, I would have decked myself out with the scarf and the beanie and the jersey. Actually, do you remember when we first started, Laura? I think we might have been talking to Jamie, and he mentioned Wally Lewis, and I said, "Who's she?"
Yeah, I do remember about that. Yeah.
Mate, that's sacrilege.
That was only 4 years ago. I got a bit of banter for that for a fair while. So.
I reckon so. No, you can't diss on the king, mate.
No, not the king, mate. But I've got a lot of respect for the king.
Yeah, no, he's an absolute legend. I still love that footage of the game where him and Mark McGaw got sent off for fighting, and they're up the tunnel just going a biff as well. Like that was
big
football.
MG.
Yeah, that was football.
It was. Mate, thank you very much for jumping on tonight. We really appreciate it and for giving us some time.
No, thanks for what you folks do. They're always a good listen.
More than welcome, mate. Thank you. And to everyone that logged on tonight or listening back, please remember we learn every day, and a day we stop learning will be a sad one for all of us. Thank you.